Today's date is October 24th, 1995, and this tape is going to be recordings of my mom's memory in her early childhood. Uh, Now, Mom, Velma McElhaney King, if you will tell me the first thing that you can remember about your life, starting with, I think you told me that you first think that you was about a year and a half when your mother left you with your Aunt Kate. Now, will you?
She left me. She stayed on one side of the creek and left me to go across some logs that was laying on across the creek. Well, it was just a kind of the water just all over the place, you know. It wasn't no just straight creek, and left me there to go up to Aunt Kate, and I fell off in the water. Had on a little outing gown. What everybody wore then, that was all I had. It was just, and Charlie Graham and Edgar Meeks was hunting, this squirrel hunting up in the woods above where I was at. And they seen me when I fell off in that water. And they come and got me up and carried me up to Aunt Kate's house. And my mama went on her way, wherever she was going. And from then I stayed at Aunt Kate's till I married, until she died. Well, she died before I married. Well, she died in February, and I married in September.
Well, did your mom ever come back to visit you during that time?
She'd come back once or twice, and every time she'd come, Aunt Kate would scoot me off somewhere else, afraid she'd try to steal me, take me with her. And Aunt Kate didn't want her to take me with her because she knew that Maud couldn't do nothing with me because she didn't have nowhere to take me.
And it was your recollection that she went to Alabama at that time?
No, yeah, she went to Huntsville, Alabama at that time.
And stayed there. And
she lived there as long as she lived, I reckon.
And you was telling me that you thought she was somewhere close to where they ginned cotton?
What?
The ginned cotton?
Yeah, she worked in the cotton gin, where the ginned and made thread.
In Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama.
And then later you understood that she married?
Yeah, a man named Hicks.
Fred Hicks?
Fred Hicks. And he had a son. I don't know how old he was, but he was at home with him and her.
But they never had any children?
They never had no children.
And did you ever see her again after you was grown?
Yes, when she come back there after I married. I married in September, and Ed was born the next August, and Ed was 6 months old. She come back there.
When Ed was 6 months. Now, your first marriage was to Charlie Berry?
Yeah.
From Tracy City, okay.
And she come back there and stayed all night in Uncle George's that night. Now, Charlie Bear brought me up there. We had a car, and he brought me up there to see her. And then he come and got me. He wouldn't stay around, but he took me up there. And she played with Ed, held him in her arms, and, you know, like a grandmother would, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I never did see her no more.
And that must have been in 1925, probably?
Ed was born in 24, and that had been in August, and he's 6 months old when she come. That's
about early 1925.
Yeah.
Okay. You also have told me a story about your grandfather, Nathan T. McElhaney, who was married to Eliza J. and she died. And then tell me what you can remember of the story of him leaving Tracy City.
Well, all I can remember is just when
this would be just stuff that that you remember him telling.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was. Well, he got tired working, I reckon, in the mines and couldn't take care of his children, and he had two oxen, and a covered wagon, and he loaded them up, the children, and what furniture and stuff he had, and went up there to live. He's going to stay up there.
Up where?
In Arkansas.
Okay.
And Bob got lost, or
now his children. Name his children.
It was Aunt Kate and Bob and Maud was the children.
Yeah.
And he got lost, or the Indians captured him, or something, or drowned in that water. The waters it had rained and rained, and the water was up awful high. And they was living in a houseboat on the river. And he looked for him and looked for him, but he never could
Robert
find him.
was how old at this time?
Huh?
And how old was Robert at this time?
I don't know.
I recall you having told me some other time that
he's
you
about
thought he was
12 years old.
12 or 14 years old.
And
then
so the train killed one of his ox. I just left him one ox and a wagon, and he sold that after he couldn't find Bob. He sold that and got the money and got on the train, brought his two little girls back to Tracy City where he was at, and tried to raise them up there, but he
and working in the coal mine. And then Kate got married.
And Kate married Uncle George
Graham.
Graham.
And that left Maud very young and at home.
Yeah.
Alone. And
with his brother. He had a brother. Grandpa had a brother.
What was his name? Do you remember what his name was?
I don't know. I never did hear it. If I do, I don't remember. And he didn't work. He stayed at home. And he'd step on my mother's toes, and Granddaddy'd get mad because he'd step on him. He'd tell him to quit, and he wouldn't quit. He drank. And Granddaddy got his old shotgun and shot his toes off for stepping on my mama's toes.
Yeah, but then whatever happened, we don't know. But
that's
just that Maud, being young and had you.
She didn't have nobody to advise her and to talk to her or tell her nothing but just a man, and a man's not very much help when it comes to a young girl. So you know about how that would go. And they moved from where they lived up there then down in town, or was what they called town, was in the suburbs of Tracy City. In a little old house, 2-roomed house. I remember it. And it was on Sunday night. I was born on Sunday night. Aunt Kate was at church with her baby, with Jessie. And Granddaddy had sent for her, and they had to go to church to get Aunt Kate. Well, Aunt Kate got mad because she'd had to leave church to go to attend to my mother. And that's as far as I can remember. All I can remember of that is just then she took me to raise. She wanted to put me in no, she didn't want to. Somebody wanted her to put me in a Catholic school down there in Sewanee. It's still there, the school is. And Aunt Kate didn't want me raised up by the Catholics. which I might have been better off if I would have got a good education.
That's true. That's true.
And all, but she didn't want that. She didn't want to go to the Catholics.
Well, and then of course we know that Aunt Kate and Uncle George went on to have several children.
They had 8 children. All of them was girls, but one, and that was Robert.
Mm-hmm.
Robert was
and he died fairly young.
He died after I married and come down here.
And do you remember the details of what was wrong with him?
Well, he had typhoid fever first, and then they said it settled on his lungs, and he stayed around there all Sunday evening and went to. Florence said he'd go from one bed to the other and lay while he was hurting so bad, and died that night.
And they raised you then until you was grown, and you look to them as your parents, because
well, that's
they
why
really were.
They raised me from a little bitty thing, year and a half, 2 years old, till I was.
And their siblings was more like your brother and sisters.
Well, that's all I had. All there was to me.
And then later, after you married Charlie Berry and was with him for about a year or a year and a half.
Well, I was with him long enough for Ed to be born, and I stayed with him. When Ed was born, he left and went to. He was he lost his job. Took the train off of the track up there and quit running it, And he was a fireman on that train up and down that mountain till he was took off, and he went with the men around building highways around, and he'd go off and stay in 2 and 3 months at a time before he'd ever come home. And he happened to be there the night that Ed was born, and he stayed around there 1 or 2 days, and he left and left me in the bed without a thing to eat, nothing. And I just stayed there all day or two. Well, till Miss Elliott was my closest neighbor, and she called for Jessie to come down there, and Uncle George wouldn't let them girls come close to him. I don't know. Well, he was bad running after the women anyway, and Jessie come and got me, and she carried the suitcase, and I carried the baby from where I lived up to where Uncle George lived, and stayed up there a few days. And I wanted to go back home, and I took the baby and went back home, and stayed down there until he come back. And then he left and never did come back no more.
And went to Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
And then how long after that was it that you went out there, hoping to?
I went out there in the fall of the year. It's in about October.
When Ed was about a year old?
Yeah.
On the train?
Yeah, caught the train.
And when you got out there?
Before him and me married, he had a lot of fence posts cut and lumber sawed and all the stuff to fix the place up, and then Sue died, and he didn't do nothing. He just dropped it there.
Sue was his first wife?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I sold all that stuff and got the money and went up there. I wrote him and told him I was coming. And when I got there, he had to hustle around to get out of there before I could see it. So I seen the woman that he's living with.
And how long did you stay out there?
I stayed out there I don't know whether I went in October. I think it was in October I went. I stayed about 3 months. And of October, November, and December. And I went home the 1st of January.
Did you go back to Tracy or to Murfreesboro?
To Tracy City.
Okay.
That's where he lived. His house was.
Okay.
He owned a little house,
Uh-huh.
and he had me to sign my name for that to go to George and Charles. He said, "I'll buy you a house and fix it up." He knew all the time what he was fixing to do, but I didn't have sense enough to know. So Charles and George, I reckon they got the house. It's still there.
That was his 2 children by his first wife. That was his 2 children by his first wife.
Yeah, Charles and George.
And then, how long then did you stay in Tracy City after you came back, before you came to Murfreesboro?
From the time I went back?
About January of 19...
I think.
26?
Well, I don't know just when I come down here.
Well, how long did you stay in Murfreesboro before you got up with Dad?
Your daddy met me at the train when I got there. I come to Grundy King's.
Oh, you did. That was probably early of 1926, maybe? How long then?
Yeah, it was early as that, whatever it was.
Well, you and Daddy married April 1st, 1926,
yeah.
and
it was before then, just a few months before then. And we married, and then just a little while after I got down here. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you told me that you worked for someone in Murfreesboro.
Well, I did. I stayed in Murfreesboro most of the time when I come out here.
For how long? For just a few months?
Yeah. A few months is all I was down there before we married.
Okay. And then but you already knew Dad because he was...
Well, they was in the family. There was Uncle George's sister, and they'd come up there and stay 2 and 3 weeks at a time at Aunt Kate's house.
Yeah.
And
so Dad, whose mother was a Graham, was the first cousin to the siblings that you looked on as your brothers and sisters. Yeah. And even though you were not related to Dad,
I wasn't no kin to Uncle George, but it was Aunt Kate.
Yeah.
And
so your first cousins and Dad's first cousins was the same people.
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes you all akin to them on both sides.
Yeah. And then let's see, what else can I think of that you have told me in the past? Can you think of anything else?
Not off the top of my head, I can't think right now.